Valar Morghulis. Welcome, friends of the realm. Today we dare to ask, what if Robert Baratheon survived? In this alternate saga, the boar's tusk that was meant to end a king's life instead delivers a near-fatal wound, yet not quite mortal. Or the king who wouldn't die. The royal pavilion near the Kingswood bustled with alarm. King Robert Baratheon, wounded during his drunken boar hunt, had been carried back to camp on a makeshift litter. Blood soaked his breeches where the boar's tusk had savaged his leg. In canon, the king perished, leaving Westeros to unravel under the chaos that followed. Yet now, by a bizarre twist of fate, or the old god's subtle whim, the king still clung to life. Sir Barristan Selmy, face grim, stood watch as Pycelle's potions failed to ease Robert's fever. Renly Baratheon, the king's younger brother, paced anxiously, exchanging tense looks with Petyr Baelish. Lord Eddard Stark finally arrived, fear etched into his eyes.
Ned, we feared we'd lost him.
Ned surveyed the shredded leg, Pycelle's trembling hands applying questionable ointments. Something felt off. Rumors whispered that Queen Cersei might have meddled with the wine, ensuring Robert was too drunk to defend himself. The boar's savage attack should have ended the king's life, yet Robert's heart thundered still. With difficulty, Robert cracked an eye open. He gasped, delirious. "By the gods, what my leg! I'll kill the sow, I swear." As the huntsman lifted the king onto a horse litter for the slow journey to King's Landing, news sped ahead. The king is wounded, but not dead. Tensions flared in the capital. Cersei Lannister, uncertain if her plan had miscarried, bit her lip, summoning Janos Slynt and the Gold Cloaks to maintain order. Even so, doubt gnawed at her. If Robert recovered, he might suspect sabotage. The seeds of suspicion were sown. Inside the cramped litter, Ned brushed damp hair from Robert's forehead. He recalled the letter from Jon Arryn, the suspicious death that had preceded all this. If the king discovered the truth, that Joffrey, Myrcella and Tommen were not his, Cersei's entire facade would collapse. Ned felt a pang of dread. War might soon tear the realm apart. By dusk, the travelers reached King's Landing. The people lined the streets, half stunned by the sight of their battered monarch. Bells tolled anxiously, as though mourning preemptively. But Robert's chest rose and fell. He was not yet claimed by death. Ned's revelation. Within the Red Keep, the king was laid upon a wide bed. Pycelle fussed at his side, but another maester, hand-selected by Catelyn Stark from the north, took over the healing. A brew of willow bark, hawthorn, and unknown herbs was administered. Ned lingered outside, wrestling with a choice. If Robert died ignorant, the Lannisters would hold the throne unchallenged. Yet Robert was alive, for now. The secret of Joffrey's parentage burned in Ned's mind. At dawn, he entered the sick room. Robert's eyes fluttered, still glazed with pain, yet the man possessed enough lucidity to bark.
"Ned, why in seven hells do I still breathe? That boar, big as a horse,
Ned's heart pounded. He bent to his old friend.
"Robert, there's something you must know. It concerns the Queen, Cersei Lannister, and her children."
Robert's gaze sharpened with suspicion. He demanded details. In hushed tones, Ned laid out everything. The lineages, the black of Baratheon hair in every legitimate child, except Joffrey, Myrcella and Tommen, all golden-haired like the Lannisters. He cited rumors of Jaime Lannister sharing the Queen's bed. Robert's eyes widened, rage welling.
"You mean they are not mine?"
Ned nodded grimly. The king's breath rattled with fury.
"By the gods, that lying whore! Summon her, she will answer for this, and so will her damned brother!"
Pycelle tried to hush him, but Robert shoved the old maester aside. He swung his good leg off the bed, demanding a crutch. A soldier's will overcame the agony in his injured thigh. Word spread swiftly through the corridors. The king had awakened, and he was enraged. Alarm bells rang throughout the Red Keep. Queen Cersei, informed of Robert's fury, scrambled to salvage her position. She called on Janos Slynt, ordering him to rally the gold cloaks to protect her. But Janos, seeing the writing on the wall, hesitated. He had no wish to pit the City Watch against King Robert's might. A rumor circulated that Robert threatened to hang any gold cloak who defied him. Slynt, sensing self-preservation, remained neutral. Cersei attempted a bold approach. She marched into the throne room with Joffrey at her side. The court murmured. Then the doors slammed open. King Robert, battered but upright, hobbled in on a crutch. He was flanked by Sir Barristan Selmy and other Kingsguard loyal to the crown. Joffrey stepped forth, screeching about his rightful claim, calling Robert a drunk, unfit to reign. The boy's arrogance soared unchecked.
"I am the king! Guards, seize—"
He never finished the sentence. Robert's big hand thrust the crutch aside and with a roar smashed Joffrey to the floor, a single savage blow. Gasps rippled through the hall. Joffrey lay in a twisted heap, blood pooling under his blonde curls. Cersei screamed, rushing to her son. But Joffrey's eyes stared blankly. The cruel prince was dead. Stunned silence gripped the room. Robert, chest heaving, stared at the lifeless boy. A part of him registered horror. He'd killed someone he once believed was his child. The rest of him seethed with betrayal. Cersei, shrieking, scrambled to drag Myrcella and Tommen away from the dais. She fled into secret passageways, her face twisted in grief and dread. Ned Stark tried to calm the stunned courtiers. The realm teetered on the edge of chaos. Robert collapsed onto the Iron Throne steps, leg throbbing, mind swirling. The illusions of paternity lay shattered in a bloody throne room. The lioness was on the run, her remaining cubs in tow. Before we move on, I'd like to ask you a small favor. If you like this content, please take a second to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Over 90% of you watch the videos without subscribing. Imagine what we could accomplish if everyone subscribed. It costs you nothing, but it makes a huge difference to us. So, is it done? Great. Thank you so much. Brothers Baratheon united. As the capital reeled, Ned dispatched ravens to Stannis on Dragonstone and Renly in the Stormlands. Both younger Baratheons arrived soon after, each with personal ambitions. The city was tense. Cersei had vanished. The Lannisters might be rallying in the west, and Robert's moral authority was in question. Renly Baratheon, flamboyant and eager, sought to position himself as master of laws or some high station. Stannis, grim-faced, insisted the crown should pass to the rightful heir if Robert died. By law, that was Stannis next in line. But Robert refused to lie down. Pycelle's potions might have spelled doom, but the newly arrived Northern Meister's herbal remedies worked wonders. Within weeks, Robert cast aside his crutch. The king, once again mobile, was more vengeful than ever. At a tense council meeting, the three Baratheon brothers stood together.
The Lannisters planned to steal my throne. Cersei killed Jon Arryn, had me nearly gutted by a boar, and turned my own seat into a den of vipers. Enough. We unite, or we all fall.
I will serve, but if the law names me heir, so be it. No more shadows in the corners.
Whatever is best for the realm, of course. Though I do fancy a bit more color in these dreary halls.
Despite underlying tensions, the Baratheon brothers formed a tenuous unity. Ned sighed in relief. With Robert alive and both brothers allied, King's Landing might repel any Lannister strike. But beneath that veneer, each brother harbored ambition or resentment. The seeds of conflict remained. Far to the west, Tywin Lannister received word of Joffrey's death and Cersei's flight. For the proud lord of Casterly Rock, the humiliation was staggering. House Lannister's future was imperiled, its presumed hold on the Iron Throne undone. Fury blazed in Tywin's eyes as he raised a massive host at the Golden Tooth, determined to reassert the Lion's dominance. Tywin marched east, seeking to strike King's Landing before Robert's hold grew stable. However, with the city on high alert, the combined might of Baratheon loyalists and the Gold Cloaks prepared defences along the Blackwater. Robert, newly invigorated, personally led a cavalry force. Stannis commanded a portion of the fleet on the river, while Renly mustered Stormland levies. Tywin's initial assault met fierce resistance near the fords. After a bloody skirmish, Tywin retreated, realizing the crown was not the wounded beast he expected.
So, the drunken king survived, forging an alliance with his brothers. Then I'll burn the Riverlands, starve the crown, and force them to kneel.
He unleashed Sir Gregor Clegane, the mountain that rides, on the Riverlands. Villages burned, innocents slaughtered, all meant to lure Ned Stark and Robert away from the capital. But fate intervened in another startling fashion. As Gregor rampaged, the Brotherhood Without Banners, led by Beric Dondarrion and aided by Thoros of Myr's flaming sword, ambushed the mountain's raiding party. In a stroke of wild improbability, they captured Gregor Clegane himself. Bound in chains, the hulking knight was dragged east. The realm gasped. The unstoppable brute had been stopped. Delivered to King's Landing, Gregor faced a public trial for war crimes. In a dramatic spectacle, Robert and Ned presided. The mountain's sneering pride met the executioner's sword. His head fell before a roaring crowd. Tywin's strong arm in the Riverlands was severed, fueling the rumor. Even mountains can bleed before the king's wrath. The sacking of Casterly Rock. Enraged beyond measure, Tywin fortified Casterly Rock. But Robert had found new confidence. With the mountain gone, House Lannister's intimidation factor waned. Mace Tyrell of the Reach pledged knights to the crown, eager to curry favour. Dornish skirmishers, though wary of Baratheon rule, saw advantage in toppling the Lannisters. Meanwhile, Ned summoned northern banners to blockade the gold roads from the north. Stannis provided ships to cut off Lannisport by sea. Renly's Stormlanders closed off southwestern passes. Tywin attempted to break the encirclement, but the sheer scale of allied forces pinned him in place. Within months, the Lion was starved of reinforcements and trade. Rumours emerged that Tyrion Lannister felt alienated by his father's relentless ruthlessness. The dwarf's cunning might sabotage the rock from within, hoping to secure a lighter sentence if the crown prevailed. And sabotage he did. During a crucial midnight watch, Tyrion quietly arranged for an inner gate to open, allowing Baratheon-led troops to pour into the fortress. Within hours, Casterly Rock fell. Tywin, cornered in the Grand Hall, spat defiance. But Robert, blinded by fury, delivered the final sentence.
For your treachery, and for the pain your brood caused me, I name you traitor. House Lannister falls tonight.
Tywin, unbowed, died on the steps of his ancestral seat, hammered by the king. Jaime Lannister, rushing back from a fruitless attempt to rescue his father, was seized in the corridor. Legend says Robert, in a moment of black rage, consigned Jaime to burn in the dungeons. Only Tyrion was spared, offered as a gift to Renly for comedic reasons. The once mighty lions were shattered. With Tywin and Jaime dead, House Lannister lost its figureheads. The West bent the knee, Robert installing a loyal retainer, House Westerling, rumoured, to oversee the region. The realm gaped at the brutality. War had never felt so personal. Meanwhile, Cersei lurked in the wilds, forging small alliances with lesser Lannister bannermen. She struck a few desperate raids on crown-held towns, but her forces dwindled. Betrayed by her cousin Lancel, who sought favour from the throne, Cersei was captured. Brought in chains to King's Landing, she faced a vengeful Robert. He intended to behead her publicly. Yet the faith of the Seven, outraged by her incest, demanded atonement. In a grim ceremony, the High Septon declared a walk of atonement. Stripped of all finery, Cersei marched through the capital's streets, jeered and pelted with refuse. Robert watched from a palace balcony, whiskey in hand, eyes burning with bitterness. The city revelled in the downfall of the lioness who had once queened over them. At the end of the walk, a broken Cersei was banished to the Silent Sisters, forcibly parted from Myrcella and Tommen. Her spirit lay in ruins, name tarnished, children lost. Across the narrow sea, the Targaryen exiles stirred. Daenerys Targaryen, wed to Khal Drogo, had done more than merely endure complications. She thrived, uniting a larger Khalasar under Drogo's banner. With 3 newly hatched dragons awakened by blood magic in a moment of dire need, her reputation soared. Tales of House Lannister's collapse reached Essos, igniting Dany's ambition to reclaim the Iron Throne. She believed Westeros in chaos might welcome her dragons as saviors. But another threat loomed. A youth calling himself Aegon Targaryen, young Griff, rumored to be Rhaegar's surviving son, backed by the Golden Company. He seized Dragonstone while Robert was busy crushing the Lannisters. Hoping to gather loyal Targaryen sympathizers, Aegon planned a stealthy approach into the Crown Lands, relying on House Baratheon's distraction in the west. Yet events moved faster than expected. The Lannisters fell sooner, and Robert returned to King's Landing with a triumphant army. Daenerys, bold and determined, landed in Dorne after forging a pact with Prince Doran Martell, Elia's brother, who had yearned for vengeance against the crown. With Khal Drogo's Dothraki riders wreaking havoc and 3 dragons scorching the horizon, the south trembled. The realm faced another crisis, a Targaryen queen with living dragons, plus a second Targaryen claimant lurking on Dragonstone. With the Westerlands subdued, Robert faced a new threat from Daenerys in Dorne. The Dothraki sacked multiple villages, turning local lords against any notion of Targaryen restoration. Meanwhile, Aegon anchored at Dragonstone, rallying some Stormland lords under the Golden Company's banner. The crown felt stretched thin. Stannis Baratheon, overshadowed by Robert's heroic campaigns, saw a chance to prove his loyalty. He turned to Melisandre, a red priestess from Ashai, convinced that R'hllor's fire might defeat dragons. Renly mocked the idea. Ned Stark grew uneasy. But Robert, desperate to quell the Targaryen threat, gave Stannis tacit approval. In a midnight ritual near Storm's End, Melisandre performed blood magic, sacrificing a piece of innocence from Shireen, Stannis' daughter. Not a life, yet something intangible, a binding of her light, they whispered. The resulting curse manifested on Dany's Khalasar. Khal Drogo led a major raid, only to be trapped by illusions of flame conjured by Melisandre's magic. Drogo perished in a savage ambush. Daenerys' heartbreak sparked her dragon's rage. In their fury, they scorched parts of Sunspear, igniting terror across Dorne, then fled skyward, half-wild. Robert Baratheon reeled at the monstrous tactic. He banished Melisandre from King's Landing, branding Stannis' methods abhorrent. Ned threatened to resign as Hand, appalled by black sorcery. Stannis, though grimly unapologetic, understood the realm's revulsion. Yet the Targaryen forces were damaged, Khal Drogo dead, Dothraki fracturing. Dany's dragons remained a threat, but her ground forces waned. To secure the Crownlands, Renly led a fleet from the Reach, blockading Dragonstone. Aegon and the Golden Company resisted fiercely. They waged a naval battle in Blackwater Bay. Renly displayed unexpected cunning, severing supply lines and cornering the Targaryen forces. Jon Connington, championing Aegon, unfurled a relic banner rumored to once belong to Rhaegar, fire and blood swirling against the wind, supposedly warding off lesser flames. But infiltration from within unraveled them. A disguised operative, revealed to be Varys in a new identity, sabotaged the Golden Company's morale. Beset by hunger and betrayal, Aegon's men collapsed. In the final assault, Renly's bright green banners soared on Dragonstone's battlements. Aegon, forced to yield, bent the knee to King Robert rather than face immediate execution. Rumors spread that Aegon might be a pretender, but Robert saw use in sparing him. A living Targaryen kneeling underscored Baratheon supremacy. Nonetheless, the realm was exhausted, watchful for Daenerys' dragons. A last dragon in the sky. Daenerys, grieving over Drogo, seethed for retribution. Her largest dragon, Drogon, had grown bold, patrolling the skies near the Crownlands. Two smaller dragons, Rhaegal and Viserion, accompanied her, though half feral after the carnage in Dawn. In a desperate gambit, Dany encroached upon King's Landing, demanding justice for Drogo and acceptance of her claim. She threatened to burn the city if denied. Robert, battle-hardened and cunning now, prepared a trap. Qyburn, an expelled maester with twisted brilliance, devised scorpion-like ballistae loaded with wildfire-laced bolts. On the plains outside King's Landing, Daenerys attempted parley. In a moment of heartbreak, she recounted her father's murder, her brother's doom, and the Targaryen right to rule. Robert listened, but refused to yield. Sensing betrayal, Dany commanded Drogon to unleash flame. At Robert's signal, hidden ballistae fired. A bolt nicked Drogon's flank, enraging the beast. Fire spewed across the field. King's Landing's walls caught flame, and panic erupted. Stannis and Renly charged with cavalry, ignoring the blazing chaos. Ned led an evacuation of terrified small folk. One of the smaller dragons became entangled in a chain-laden net, screeching helplessly. The third soared away, wailing. In a final confrontation, Robert hurled his warhammer at Dany, who perched precariously on Drogon's back. Struck off balance, she tumbled into the rubble of the city's outer wall, a broken figure impaled upon jagged stones. Her dying breath echoed in the conflagration. Drogon roared in anguish, setting ramparts alight before fleeing east. The realm beheld Daenerys Targaryen's end in a scorched courtyard, another dream of conquest reduced to ash. With Daenerys fallen, King's Landing smoldered. Ned Stark, overwhelmed by the carnage, resolved to quit the Hand's office. In a final private audience, he confronted Robert about the sorrow this war had sown. The cost in lives overshadowed any fleeting triumph. Softly, Ned revealed a truth locked in his heart for years. Jon Snow was the child of Rhaegar Targaryen and Lyanna Stark. Robert, stunned, recalled how he'd built a rebellion on Rhaegar's downfall, never knowing Rhaegar's stolen bride had borne a child.
Lyanna, she was all I ever wanted. Her son, Targaryen blood. Gods, Ned, after all I've done to that name.
Ned pleaded for secrecy. The realm, fueled by hatred of dragons, would never accept Jon's lineage. Robert grimly agreed, remarking that the boy's life would be forfeit if the truth were known. Ned only asked that Robert let Jon choose his path unimpeded. The king, wrestling with regret, conceded. Jon Snow, summoned south, glimpsed the devastation wrought by Daenerys' final stand. Disgusted by politics, longing to serve a higher purpose, he declared his intention to join the Night's Watch, to guard the realm from rumored perils beyond the Wall. Ned gave him a somber farewell, both aware of the bitter irony, a hidden Targaryen defending the realm from the far north. In the aftermath, King Robert surveyed the ravaged capital. Corpses littered the streets. The Red Keep's outer ramparts lay half-crumbled from dragonfire. The final Targaryen threat had cost countless lives. The realm's coffers drained. Hunger and disease threatened the small folk. Robert, older and deeply scarred by these wars, felt a hollowness in the throne he'd once coveted. In a moment of profound clarity, Robert summoned a great council. Lords from every corner arrived, expecting the king to proclaim fresh policies or tighten his grip. Instead, Robert, clad not in regal finery, but in plain garb, addressed them with weary eyes.
All my life, I've chased power, poured blood onto these stones. The Iron Throne is a curse, spiked with the bones of 1,000 fools. I have no wish to die in it. I abdicate.
A stunned silence fell. Renly stiffened, certain he'd be named heir. Stannis wore his trademark scowl, anticipating a final validation of his claim. But Robert shook his head, calling forth a timid girl from behind the dais, Renly Baratheon, Stannis' daughter, half hidden by the flickering brazier where Melisandre lurked. The child's face bore the scars of grayscale, but also an innocent determination.
Neither of my brothers shall inherit. Their ambitions soaked the land in blood. Instead, the realm shall have a queen, Renly Baratheon. Unmarred by our sins, a new start.
Gasps rippled through the hall. Stannis' jaw tightened, and Renly all but choked. Yet many saw reason. A child untainted by incest or war might unify the realm, especially if guided by wise counselors. The faith welcomed it. Shireen, a Baratheon, but also a symbol of renewal. Ned Stark quietly supported the move, though sorrow weighed on him. He had endured too many horrors, watching Robert crush Targaryens, kill Joffrey, and break Cersei. The city's new queen might usher in peace, or so he prayed. Ned bowed once more, relinquishing his post as Hand. The younger generation. Amid the swirling shock of Robert's abdication, the lords debated the regency for Queen Shireen. Melisandre, still claiming a special guardianship, hovered near the child, though many suspected her sorcery. Davos Seaworth, Stannis' loyal man, stepped forward to protect Shireen, championing a pragmatic approach. Some whispered about marrying Shireen to a suitable young lord. Tommen Baratheon, Cersei's last son, stripped of claims, was too tarnished, while other families angled for a royal match. Sansa Stark, newly returned from the north after her forced stay in King's Landing, found herself courted as a lady-in-waiting to Shireen. Arya Stark, never comfortable at court, vanished yet again, rumours placing her in Braavos or wandering the river roads. Robb Stark became the new Warden of the North, maintaining a vigil at Winterfell, determined to keep his region stable and well-defended. Theon Greyjoy, grudgingly loyal for the moment, aided him. The realm's younger generation shouldered burdens the older had left behind. Tyrion Lannister, the last significant Lannister unshackled, found himself, ironically, appointed as Shireen's court jester counselor, a humiliating half-measure designed by Renly. Tyrion quipped he'd rather face a dragon than endure such a court, but captivity under a child queen might at least preserve his life. Varys, revealed as the spymaster behind many betrayals, quietly resumed his role in the shadows, watchful of the new power structure. A realm reforge. On a crisp morning, wagons creaked out of King's Landing's battered gates, bound for the quiet roads north. Ned Stark rode at the head, Jon Snow at his side, each weighed by private truths. They parted ways near the crossroads, Jon turning for Castle Black, Ned continuing for Winterfell. A hush of finality lingered. Winter might be near, and the Night's Watch would need every sword. Far behind them, the capital smouldered from the dragon flames that ended Daenerys' dream. Inside the Red Keep, Shireen Baratheon, crowned queen by the Great Council's decree, perched on the iron throne that dwarfed her small frame. Around her, the lords knelt or pretended to. Renly, now self-styled Lord Paramount of the Stormlands and the Reach, hovered with an insincere smile, whispering to the Tyrells about potential expansions. Stannis, overshadowed yet again, glowered from the shadows, labelled Dragon's Bane, after leading hunts for the rogue dragons. The Faith eyed him warily for the dark rituals he had once condoned. In a courtyard, turned quiet, Robert Baratheon doffed his regal cloak for the last time. He gestured for a simple travelling tunic, ignoring the remnants of ceremony. Freed from the burdens of kingship, he walked away from the palace that had become a tomb for his happiness. A small retinue, perhaps a handful of loyal Stormlanders, accompanied him as he drifted into self-imposed exile, rumoured to seek solace in obscure hunts or taverns. The realm he had shaped and nearly destroyed now belonged to a young queen with wide, uncertain eyes. High above the ramparts, a single dragon cry echoed in the distant sky, the surviving smaller dragon from Daenerys' brood, forever a reminder that some forces remain unconquered. Fear flickered through the city. Though Daenerys was dead, the legacy of Targaryen fire haunted them still. Across the sea, mercenaries debated whether a final dragon rider might appear. Some whispered of brazen new cell sales seeking fortune in the wake of Westeros's tragedies. Others recalled the rumoured illusions of Melisandre's magic, or the identity of Aegon Targaryen, kept alive, but overshadowed by Robert's wrath. Meanwhile, the darkening horizon over the far north warned of a different threat, stirring beyond the wall, where Jon Snow bore the secret of his parentage into a lifetime of sworn duty. For now at least, the Iron Throne was not empty. The Seven Kingdoms had their child queen, Shireen, and the battered realm paused to breathe. Many lords doubted she could hold power, but few dared challenge the Baratheons anew. The final vantage saw a hush descend on the throne room. Shireen, dwarfed by metal swords, twisted into a seat of endless conflict, the ghosts of dragons overhead, and the war-weary realm longing for peace. A single, fragile hope that the next generation might not repeat the horrors unleashed by the kings before them. If you've enjoyed this story, please don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe. Until next time, may the Seven and the Old Gods watch over you. Ours is the fury. Valar Morghulis.